When we think of early man, what comes to mind? Probably images of rugged hunters, wielding spears, their strength measured only by what they could conquer. But what if I told you the true strength of our earliest ancestors wasn't just about force, but about something much deeper? What if their greatest power was the willingness to be a shield? Let's rewind the clock. Way back before cities, before laws, before even the simplest of shelters. Imagine a world where every sunrise brought new uncertainty. Predators didn't live in distant jungles. They roamed right outside your camp. Food wasn't in a pantry. It had to be found, often in the face of incredible risk. The very ground you walked on could be hostile, with unpredictable weather and harsh terrain. In this world, survival wasn't a given. It was earned every single day. And how was it earned? Through community. But for a community to thrive, it needed pockets of safety. It needed someone to stand between the group and the endless dangers lurking just beyond the firelight. This is where the story of early man's strength truly begins. It wasn't about being the loudest or the most dominant. It was about shouldering a silent responsibility. Men often took on the role of the protector. Think about what that really meant. It meant being the one to scout ahead into unknown territory, not knowing what predators or pitfalls lay in wait. It meant standing guard through the long, dark nights, while others rested, ensuring the group was safe from a sudden attack. It meant being the first to confront a threat, whether it was a cave bear or a rival group, putting yourself in harm's way so that women, children, and elders could have a chance to flee. This wasn't an act of power in the way we think of it today. It wasn't about ruling over others. In fact, it was the opposite. It was an act of service. This strength was rooted in duty, endurance, and quiet sacrifice. It was the understanding that your life might be the price for the survival of the tribe. Their physical power was simply a tool to fulfill a much greater purpose, creating a space where the next generation could grow. These acts of bravery weren't recorded in history books. There were no statues built for the man who stood guard night after night, or the one who diverted a predator away from his family. Their legacy isn't written in stone, it's written in our DNA. It's in the very fact that humanity survived those brutal early millennia. They created the first, most essential form of safety, allowing for culture, innovation, and community to take root. This protective instinct, this drive to shield the vulnerable, was a foundational pillar of human society. It allowed for the development of art, language, and the complex social bonds that make us who we are. The moments of peace and security they provided were the fertile ground from which civilization eventually sprouted. So, the next time you picture early man, look past the spear and the hunt. See the sentinel, the guardian, the shield. See the man whose strength wasn't just in his arms, but in his willingness to stand between his people and the darkness, ensuring the fire of humanity would never be extinguished. That is a legacy of strength worth remembering. The first topic is life in a dangerous world. Have you ever stopped to think about what life was really like for our earliest ancestors? I mean, truly imagine it. Forget everything you know about modern life. Grocery stores, no hospitals, no police, not even a secure roof over your head. Every single day was a battle for survival in a world that was raw, unpredictable, and incredibly dangerous. Picture this. You're part of a small, nomadic group. The world around you is a vast, untamed wilderness. You're not at the top of the food chain. Far from it, giant predators, like saber-toothed cats and massive cave bears, roam the same lands. They're faster, stronger, and they see you as competition, or worse, as prey. Every rustle in the bushes, every shadow in the twilight, could be a life or death encounter. There were no high-tech weapons, no fortified walls. Your only defense was your own courage, your wits, and the person standing next to you. Survival wasn't just about avoiding predators. Nature itself was a relentless adversary. A sudden flood could wash away your camp and everything you owned. A drought could wither the plants you relied on for food, and a long, harsh winter could mean starvation. Imagine the constant, gnawing anxiety of not knowing where your next meal would come from, or if you'd even survive the night. Sickness, or a simple injury, like a broken leg from a fall, wasn't just an inconvenience, it was often a death sentence. Without modern medicine, a small infection could quickly turn fatal. In this brutal environment, roles within the group became critical for everyone's survival, and very often, it was the men who stepped into the most perilous roles. They were the ones who ventured out from the relative safety of the camp into the unknown. Think about the sheer bravery it took to be a scout, to push into uncharted territory alone, searching for new hunting grounds, fresh water, or safer places to camp. Every step was a gamble, a walk into a world filled with hidden dangers, where you were completely on your own. When the group hunted, it wasn't a sport, It was a desperate necessity. They weren't hunting deer with high-powered rifles. They were confronting mammoths, giant bison, and other formidable beasts with nothing more than sharpened sticks and stones. This required incredible teamwork, strategy, and a willingness to face immense physical risk. A charging mammoth could crush a man in an instant. A cornered animal would fight back with ferocious power. Every hunt was a life-and-death struggle, where the hunters were just as likely to become the hunted. And when the sun went down, the danger didn't stop. In fact, it often grew worse. Night brought a different kind of terror. The darkness belonged to the nocturnal predators. It fell to the men to stand guard, to keep watch over the sleeping camp. Imagine sitting by a flickering fire, the only point of light in an ocean of blackness, straining your ears for any sound that's out of place. It required unwavering alertness and immense courage to be the shield, the barrier standing between your family, your children, and the hungry things that lurked in the dark. This wasn't a choice made out of a desire for glory. It was a fundamental necessity. Someone had to be the first line of defense. Someone had to stand between the clan and the constant threats of the world. This environment, this relentless pressure, forged early men into something more than just hunters or gatherers. It shaped them into protectors, into guardians. Their identity became intrinsically linked with the responsibility of ensuring the survival of the group. This role of protector wasn't just about physical strength. It was about a mental and emotional fortitude that's hard for us to comprehend today. It was about shouldering the immense weight of responsibility for others. It meant suppressing your own fear so that others could feel safe. It meant being willing to sacrifice yourself so the group could live on. This instinct to protect, to provide, to stand firm in the face of danger became deeply embedded in the male psyche, passed down through countless generations. Now, let's fast forward through thousands of years. The world has changed dramatically. The saber-toothed cats are gone, and we live in cities of concrete and steel. The immediate, physical dangers of the prehistoric world have been replaced by a different set of challenges. But have those ancient instincts really disappeared? Or have they simply adapted to our modern world? Think about the roles men often gravitate towards today, even in our relatively safe society. Look at professions like firefighters, police officers, soldiers. These are roles that require individuals to run towards danger when everyone else is running away. It's a modern manifestation of that same ancient impulse to stand as a barrier, to protect the community. It's the scout venturing into the unknown, the guard keeping watch through the night, just in a different form. Even in everyday life, you can see echoes of this protective instinct. A father teaching his child to ride a bike, running alongside to catch them if they fall. A husband working multiple jobs to provide a secure home for his family. A friend stepping in to defend someone from being bullied. These actions, big and small, come from that same deep-seated drive to shield, to provide, and to ensure the well-being of others. The dangers have changed, but the spirit of the guardian remains. The arena is no longer the wild plains of the Pleistocene, but the complex, often challenging landscape of modern society. The predators might now be economic instability, social pressures, or mental health struggles, and the hunt might be the pursuit of a career to build a stable life for one's family. The core motivation, however, is strikingly similar: to create a circle of safety and security for the people you care about. It's fascinating to think that deep within the modern man, there's still a whisper of that ancient ancestor, the one who stood by the fire, spear in hand, ready to defend his family against the terrors of the night. This isn't about saying one gender is better than another, not at all. Early women were the absolute backbone of survival, managing the camp, nurturing the children, gathering essential resources, and possessing immense resilience. It's about acknowledging and understanding a specific, deeply ingrained aspect of masculine identity that was forged in the crucible of a very dangerous world. Understanding this history, this evolutionary psychology, can give us a deeper appreciation for some of the impulses and motivations we see today. It helps explain that powerful, instinctual drive to protect and provide that so many men feel. It's not just a social construct. It's a legacy written into our very DNA by millennia of survival. It's the echo of the guardian, a role born of necessity in a time when the world was a far more dangerous place. So next time you see an act of protection, of selfless courage, or quiet provision, take a moment to recognize its ancient roots. It's a connection to a time when survival depended entirely on individuals willing to stand between their people and the dangers of the world. And that, I think, is a legacy worth understanding and respecting. The second topic is strength beyond muscles. What do you think of when you hear the word strength? For most of us, it conjures images of bulging muscles, lifting heavy weights, or maybe a superhero throwing a car. We're wired to see strength as a physical thing, a display of raw power. And for good reason. Physical strength is impressive, useful, and often essential for survival. But what if I told you that for most of human history, the most critical form of strength had very little to do with muscles at all? Let's rewind the clock. Way back. Picture our earliest ancestors navigating a world that was beautiful, but also incredibly dangerous. A world without fortified cities, without supermarkets, without any of the safety nets we take for granted. In this world, a single mistake could be your last. So, how did they survive? How did they not just survive, but thrive and spread across the entire globe? It wasn't just by being the strongest animal in the fight. It was by being the smartest. The true strength of early societies was a different beast entirely. It was a strength of the mind, a strength of observation, and a strength of community. Think about it. The strongest man in the tribe, someone who could wrestle a wild boar, would still be no match for a pack of wolves or a sudden flash flood if he acted alone and without thinking. Rhea's strength, the kind that kept people alive, was about knowing when to fight, but more importantly, when not to. It was about recognizing that avoiding a confrontation with a saber-toothed cat was a much bigger victory than trying to face it head. This was a strength rooted in awareness, patience, and razor. These early humans were masters of pattern recognition. They didn't have weather apps, but they could read the sky, feel the shift in the wind, and know a storm was coming. They learned the migration patterns of the herds they hunted, knowing where to be and when. They memorized the landscape, every hill, every river, every hidden cave that could offer shelter. They studied the behavior of predators, understanding their hunting grounds and their habits, not to challenge them, but to stay out of their way. This deep knowledge, this intimate connection with their environment, was their ultimate weapon. It was an intelligence-based strength that allowed them to anticipate danger and proactively protect their group. And that's a key. Point of focus wasn't on individual glory. It was about the survival of the community. A strong individual was someone who contributed to the safety and well-being of everyone else. Their strength was measured by their ability to find food, to locate fresh water, to guide their family away from a predator's path. This required a constant, quiet alertness. It demanded patience, waiting for the right moment to make a move, whether hunting or traveling. This mental fortitude, this ability to stay calm under pressure and make calculated decisions, is what truly defines strength. It was less about the warrior's roar and more about the scout's whisper. So what happened? How did we move from this holistic view of strength to our modern, muscle-centric one? A lot of it has to do with the rise of civilization, agriculture, and eventually, organized warfare. As societies grew larger and more settled, the nature of threats changed. The danger was no longer a random predator in the woods, but often other groups of people competing for land and resources. In this new context, the physically powerful soldier became a symbol of a nation's might. The ability to win a direct, physical conflict became paramount. Literature and myths began to celebrate the hero who could slay the monster with his bare hands, or vanquish an army with his sword. Think of figures like Hercules or Samson. Their stories are incredible, but they emphasize physical domination above all else. This narrative was powerful, and it stuck. Over centuries, we started to equate strength almost exclusively with the ability to exert physical force. The quiet, observant strength of the scout or the gatherer was pushed into the background. It was still there. Of course, you couldn't build a city or manage a farm without it, but it wasn't what we celebrated as strength. Fast forward to today. We live in a world that is, for many, the safest it's ever been. Yet, our obsession with physical strength continues. We admire athletes, bodybuilders, and action heroes. And there's nothing wrong with that. Physical fitness is incredibly important for health and well-being. But have we forgotten the other side of the coin? Have we lost touch with that ancient, more subtle form of strength? I believe that original, holistic strength is more relevant today than ever. The predators we face have changed. They aren't lions and tigers anymore. They are things like stress, anxiety, information overload, and complex social challenges. Brute physical force can't solve these problems. You can't bench press your way out of burnout. You can't fight off misinformation with your fists. The skills our ancestors used to survive are the very skills we need to thrive in the 21st century. Think about it. Awareness. In a world of constant digital distraction, the ability to be present and aware of your own mental state and your surroundings is a superpower. It's the first step to managing stress and making conscious choices. Instead of reacting on autopilot, patience. We live in an age of instant gratification. Everything is a click away. But the most meaningful things in life, building a career, nurturing a relationship, learning a new skill, they all require patience. The ability to delay gratification and work steadily towards a long-term goal is a profound form of mental strength. We are bombarded with more information and choices in a single day than our ancestors might have seen in a lifetime. The strength to sift through the noise, to think critically, and to make wise decisions that align with our values is absolutely crucial for a good life. It's about knowing when to engage and when to step back, just like they knew when to confront danger and when to avoid it. And finally, community. The ancient understanding that strength serves the group, not just the individual, is a lesson we desperately need to relearn. In our often isolated modern lives, true strength is found in connection, in supporting others, and in knowing how to ask for help. It's about building a tribe that has your back, not just in a physical fight, but in the mental and emotional challenges of life. So, how do we cultivate this deeper strength? It starts by changing our perspective. It means recognizing that taking a mental health day is an act of strength. It means seeing the patience it takes to listen to someone with a different viewpoint as a strength. It means celebrating the courage it takes to admit you not know something, or to walk away from a toxic argument online. This isn't about dismissing physical strength. A strong body absolutely contributes to a strong mind. The two are deeply connected. But it's about expanding our definition. It is about creating a more balanced and complete picture of what it means to be a strong, capable human being. The real challenge for us today is to integrate the best of both worlds, to build physical resilience, while also cultivating mental and emotional fortitude, to be strong enough to face a physical challenge, but wise enough to know which battles are worth fighting. Our ancestors' legacy isn't just in our DNA, it's in the blueprint for a kind of strength that is timeless, adaptable, and profoundly human. A strength that goes far, far beyond muscle. What are your thoughts on this? How do you define strength in your own life? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to read your perspectives. The third topic is protection as responsibility. Have you ever wondered about the true meaning of protection? Not the kind you see in action movies, but the quiet, foundational kind that has shaped human societies for thousands of years. Let's take a journey back in time to understand a responsibility that was woven into the very fabric of survival. Imagine a world without walls, without police, without the safety nets we take for granted. In this world, protection wasn't just a job. It was a fundamental duty, and historically, this duty often fell to men. This wasn't about power or dominance. It was about a simple, brutal truth. Survival depended on it. Think about it. To protect meant to accept a risk. To stand guard at the edge of the firelight, peering into the darkness, meant you were the first line of defense against a predator or a rival tribe. You were the one who had to be awake while others slept. You were the one who had to face the threat head-on, so others wouldn't have to. This act of standing guard meant constant exposure. It meant facing the cold, the rain, the unknown. It meant sacrificing your own comfort and, sometimes, your own safety. When a threat appeared, it was the protector who stepped forward. This often meant putting your own life on the line. It was a profound act of service, a sacrifice made for the good of the group. Men accepted this heavy responsibility because the stakes couldn't be higher. The survival of their families, their children, their entire community depended on their willingness to face danger. Their role wasn't about wielding authority. It was about creating stability. Because they stood watch, others could rest. Because they faced the dangers of the hunt, the community had food. Because they secured the perimeter, life within the camp could flourish. This stability was the bedrock upon which everything else was built. It allowed for the raising of children, the nurturing of the sick and elderly, and the passing down of crucial knowledge and traditions from one generation to the next. Imagine the ripple effect of this protection. It created a space where culture could develop. While protectors were managing external threats, others could focus on internal cohesion. They could teach, heal, and innovate. The storyteller could share the tribe's history. The artisan could perfect their craft. The caregiver could ensure the next generation was strong and healthy. So, protection wasn't a declaration of authority. It was a form of service. It was a silent promise to the community that said, I will face the dangers of the world so that you can live in peace. It was a responsibility shouldered, not for personal gain, but for the collective good. It was the foundation that allowed societies to not just survive, but to thrive. Now, let's bring this concept into a more modern context. What does it mean to be a provider? The word often conjures images of bringing home a paycheck, and that's certainly a part of it. But just like protection, the role of the provider is much deeper and more nuanced than that. Historically, providing was a direct extension of protecting. The hunt was dangerous, unpredictable work. It required strength, skill, and a willingness to endure hardship. The food a man brought back wasn't just sustenance. It was a tangible result of his effort and risk. It was a physical manifestation of his commitment to his family's well. This act of providing forged a powerful link between effort and survival. It wasn't an abstract concept. If you didn't succeed, your family went hungry. This reality shaped a man's identity. His worth wasn't just in his strength, but in his reliability. Could he be counted on? When times were tough, would he persevere? This is where grit and resilience come into play. The hunt didn't always end in success. The fields didn't always yield a good harvest. There were setbacks, failures, and periods of scarcity. A provider couldn't afford to give up. He had to learn from his mistakes, adapt his strategies, and go out again the next day, and the day after that. This relentless drive wasn't fueled by a desire for personal glory. It was fueled by the faces of those who depended on him. Every drop of sweat, every ache in his muscles, was an investment in their future. He was building not just a meal, but a foundation of security. This deep-seated responsibility to provide created a powerful sense of purpose. It gave meaning to the struggle. It transformed hardship from a burden into a badge of honor. It was a man's way of demonstrating his love and commitment in the most practical way possible. And just like protection created stability for the community, providing created stability for the family. It ensured there was food on the table, a roof over their heads, and a sense of security that allowed the family unit to flourish. It allowed children to be children, to learn and grow without the constant worry of where their next meal would come from. So, when we think of a provider, let's look beyond the wallet. Let's see the resilience, the grit, the unwavering commitment to the well-being of others. It's a role built on action, not words. It's about showing up day after day and doing what needs to be done, not for applause, but for the love of those you serve. Now, let us talk about a role that combines the protector and the provider and takes it to a whole new level. The role of the builder. This isn't just about constructing physical structures, it's about building a future. Imagine early human societies. Once basic survival was secured through protection and provision, the next question was, how do we make life better? How do we create something that lasts beyond our own lifetime? This is the builder's mindset. The builder looks at a patch of untamed land and sees a future home. He looks at a pile of stones and sees a wall that will offer greater security. He sees a river and imagines a bridge that will connect his community to new resources. It's a role that requires vision, foresight, and an immense amount of hard work. Building is an act of profound optimism. It's a belief that the future can be better than the present, and that we have the power to make it so. It requires long-term thinking. You don't build a house in a day or establish a city in a week. It requires patience, planning, and a willingness to invest your energy into something you might not even see fully completed. This role was essential for human progress. The first shelters, the first irrigation systems, the first roads, all of these were the work of builders. They were turning abstract ideas into tangible realities. They were shaping the physical world to better serve human needs. This work was often grueling. It was physically demanding and required a different kind of the strength to lift, to carry, to dig, day in and day out. But it also required ingenuity. How do you lift a heavy stone? How do you make a roof that doesn't leak? Every project was a puzzle to be solved, and the impact of the builder was monumental. A well-built home provided shelter from the elements and a safe place for a family to grow. A granary protected the harvest, ensuring food security through the winter. A defensive wall provided a level of safety that allowed a village to become a town and a town to become a city. The builder wasn't just working for himself. He was creating a legacy. The structures he built would serve his children and his children's children. He was literally laying the foundation for future generations. This is a powerful form of providing not just for today's needs, but for the needs of tomorrow. Think about the world around you. Every road, every bridge, every building, every city is a testament to the builder's spirit. It's a legacy of problem-solving hard work and a commitment to creating a better, more secure world. This impulse to build, to improve, to create something of lasting value is a core part of the human story. So, we've talked about the protector, the provider, and the builder. These aren't just separate jobs. They are interconnected facets of a single, powerful drive. The drive to serve and improve the lives of others. The fourth topic is from survival to structure. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our channel, where we explore the fascinating journey of human history. Today, we're diving deep into a pivotal moment in our past. The shift from nomadic wandering to settled life. What really drove our ancestors to put down roots? And how did that one decision completely reshape human society, leading to the world we know today? Let's travel back in time, way back, to when our ancestors were constantly on the move. Life was a daily quest for survival. You'd follow the herds, search for ripe fruits, and find shelter wherever you could. Your world was defined by the next meal and the next safe place to sleep. But then, something incredible began to happen. In certain fertile regions, like the crescent-shaped land in the Middle East, people started to notice a pattern. They saw that if you dropped a seed in the ground, a plant would grow. This wasn't just a random observation, it was a revolutionary discovery. This realization, the birth of agriculture, was the spark that ignited a massive change. Instead of chasing food, our ancestors learned they could grow it. They began cultivating wild grains like wheat and barley. This meant they didn't have to wander anymore. They could stay in one place, tend to their crops, and have a more reliable food source. It sounds simple, but this was a game changer. For the first time, people could plan for the future, storing surplus food for lean times. This newfound food security was the anchor that tethered nomadic groups to a single location, creating the very first permanent settlements, with groups staying longer in one place. New challenges and roles emerged. The concept of a home became more permanent, and with it, the need to protect it. This is where we see the early roles of community defense becoming more defined. Men often took on the responsibility of organizing this protection. They would patrol the borders of the settlement, keep an eye on the surrounding territory for potential threats, and stand ready to defend their homes and families. This wasn't just about fighting, it was about ensuring the safety that allowed the community to thrive. These early defensive structures and roles laid the groundwork for more organized, structured communities, a blueprint for the villages and towns that would soon dot the landscape. Now, think about it. When you're not spending every waking moment hunting or gathering, you suddenly have something new. Time, this extra time. A direct result of farming, allowed for an explosion of creativity and innovation. People started experimenting. They developed new tools to make farming easier, like sickles for harvesting and grinding stones for processing grain. They built more durable homes from mud, stone, and wood, creating a stronger sense of place and permanence. And perhaps, most importantly, they started to specialize. Not everyone needed to be a farmer anymore. Some people became skilled builders. Others became toolmakers, or weavers, or potters. This specialization of labor was a massive leap forward. It meant that individuals could perfect a craft, leading to higher quality goods and a more complex economy. People could now trade their pottery for grain, or their tools for textiles. This created a web of interdependence within the community, knitting people together in new and powerful ways. This period of innovation wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about improving the quality of life, making things more efficient, and creating a more comfortable existence. As these settlements grew from small hamlets into bustling villages, life became more complex. And with complexity comes the need for rules and leadership. You can't have hundreds of people living together without some form of organization. Who decides how to distribute stored food? Who mediates disputes between neighbors? Early forms of governance began to take shape. Often, a council of elders or a respected leader would emerge to make these important decisions. These early leaders weren't kings or presidents, but they were crucial for maintaining social order and harmony. They established the unwritten rules and customs that governed daily life, resolving conflicts and guiding the community's future. This was the birth of politics and social structure, a necessary step in managing a growing population. But the changes weren't just practical. They were spiritual and cultural too. Life, now tied to the land and the seasons, fostered a new kind of belief system. People watched the cycle of planting, growing, and harvesting. They depended on the sun and the rain. It's no surprise that their religious beliefs became deeply connected to nature and fertility. They created rituals to honor the earth, to pray for a good harvest, and to celebrate the changing seasons. We see evidence of this in the art they left behind in cave paintings, small carved figurines of fertility goddesses, and monumental structures aligned with the sun. This cultural blossoming gave life a deeper meaning beyond mere survival. It created a shared identity, a collective story that bound the community together. With permanent homes and a reliable food source, populations began to grow. More food meant that families could support more children, and more children survived into adulthood. These early villages started to expand, sometimes growing into the world's first towns and eventually cities. But growth brought new challenges. How do you manage resources for thousands of people? How do you organize large-scale projects like building irrigation canals or defensive walls? This required a new level of social organization. Hierarchies began to form, with leaders, priests, soldiers, and common laborers. Society was becoming This was the dawn of civilization, as we often think of it: large, organized, complex societies with a clear social structure. And as these societies grew, so did the need for a revolutionary new tool: writing. Imagine trying to keep track of who owned what, how much grain was in storage, or what laws had been passed, all just by memory. It was impossible. The first forms of writing, like cuneiform in Mesopotamia, weren't developed for poetry or stories. They were invented for accounting to keep records. This invention was a monumental leap. It allowed for the precise administration of a large state. It preserved laws, history, and knowledge, allowing information to be passed down accurately through generations. Writing was the final key that unlocked the door to complex, large-scale civilizations. It enabled the creation of empires, the advancement of science, and the recording of the epic story of humanity. So, when we look back, we see that the decision to plant a single seed had consequences that rippled through thousands of years of history. It wasn't just about food. It was about creating community, sparking innovation, developing laws, and building the very foundations of the world we live in. From that first farm to the first city, every step was a response to the last, a continuous chain of cause and effect that transformed our species from wandering nomads into the builders of civilizations. The fifth topic is the legacy of early men. Have you ever wondered what life was like for the very first men? I'm not talking about kings or generals whose names are etched in stone. I'm talking about the everyday men, the ones who lived tens of thousands of years ago. Their stories aren't written in books, but their legacy is all around us, woven into the very fabric of our societies. Let's journey back in time to a world lit only by firelight and starlight, and uncover the silent, powerful legacy of early men. Imagine a world that's both breathtakingly beautiful and incredibly harsh. A world without cities, without roads, without the safety nets we take for granted. This was the world of early human societies. Survival wasn't just a goal, it was a full-time job. And in this demanding environment, roles naturally began to form, driven by the fundamental needs of the group. For men, a primary role that emerged was that of the protector and provider. This wasn't about power or dominance in the way we might think of it today. It was about responsibility. It was about standing between your family, your small clan, and the very real dangers that lurked just beyond the glow of the campfire. Whether it was the sharp tooth of a predator, the biting cold of a harsh winter, or the uncertainty of the next meal, the challenges were constant. Men were often the ones who ventured further from the camp. They tracked animals over vast, untamed landscapes, not for sport, but for sustenance. A successful hunt meant the difference between a community that thrived and one that starved. This required incredible skill, patience, and a deep, intimate knowledge of the natural world. They had to read the tracks, understand animal behavior, and work together with a level of coordination that would be the envy of any modern team. It was a silent ballet of strategy and strength. But their role as providers wasn't just about the hunt. It was also about securing resources, finding safe water sources, identifying edible plants, locating the best stone for crafting tools. All of this was part of ensuring the group's survival. These weren't grand, heroic gestures. They were the small, consistent acts of dedication that built the foundation of human life. Then there was the role of protector. In a world with no walls or police, the safety of the group rested on the shoulders of its able-bodied members. This meant being vigilant, watching for predators, and being ready to defend the camp from any threat, whether from a rival group or a hungry animal. This protective instinct wasn't born from aggression, but from a profound sense of duty to the women, children, and elders who depended on them. It was a quiet strength, a steadfast presence that allowed the community to rest, to raise children, and to develop the very first sparks of culture. It's easy to romanticize this as a life of constant adventure, but the reality was likely much different. It was a life of immense pressure and risk. Every hunt could be the last. Every journey into the unknown was fraught with peril. The physical toll was enormous. Fossil records of early men often show evidence of healed fractures, injuries, and the wear and tear of a physically demanding life. They carried the scars of their responsibility. Literally, this legacy of protection and provision didn't just disappear as humans settled down. It evolved. When the first small villages began to form, the nature of the threat changed. Instead of a saber-toothed cat, the danger might be a raid from a neighboring group competing for land or resources. The role of the protector adapted. Men became the guardians of the village, the ones who stood on the primitive walls or patrolled the perimeter. The responsibility shifted from protecting a small, mobile band of kin to safeguarding a larger, stationary community. This created a new kind of social cohesion. The idea that a group of men were responsible for the safety of the entire settlement became a cornerstone of early societal structure. This wasn't just a job, it was a core part of their identity. As these villages grew into the first cities, The scale changed, but the fundamental principle remained. The concept of a dedicated group responsible for defense gave rise to the first city guards, the first militias, and eventually, the first armies. The protector role became formalized, institutionalized. The solitary hunter tracking game was replaced by the disciplined soldier standing watch on the battlements of Uruk or Babylon. The tools changed from stone-tipped spears to bronze swords, but the underlying drive to protect the home, the family, the community was a direct echo from their prehistoric ancestors. Think about it. The very idea of a city wall is a testament to this legacy. It's a physical manifestation of the need to create a safe space, a protected zone where life can flourish. And for millennia, men were the ones who built those walls and stood guard upon them. This protective role also shaped social and political structures. Leaders were often chosen for their ability to provide and protect. The strongest hunter, the wisest strategist, the most courageous warrior. These were the men who naturally commanded respect and were entrusted with the well-being of the group. This laid the groundwork for chieftains, for kings, for leaders of all kinds, who were expected, above all else, to ensure the safety and prosperity of their people. The social contract, in its most basic form, began right there. Protection in exchange for loyalty. But it's crucial to understand that this legacy is not just about physical strength or conflict. The provider role also evolved in fascinating ways. As agriculture took hold, the focus shifted from hunting to farming. The man who once tracked mammoths now guided a plow. The land itself became the resource to be cultivated and protected. The daily toil of work in the fields, of managing livestock, of ensuring a harvest was the new form of providing. It was less about explosive moments of risk and more about the long, grueling, season after season commitment to feeding the community. This enduring commitment is the invisible thread that connects us to those early men. Their strength wasn't necessarily loud. It wasn't recorded in epic poems or detailed histories, because writing hadn't been invented yet. Their triumphs were silent. A successful hunt that fed the clan for a week. A threat averted in the dead of night. A child who grew to adulthood because they were kept safe and fed. Their legacy is a quiet one. It's the instinct to protect our loved ones. It's the drive to provide for our families. It's the sense of responsibility we feel for our communities. These deep-seated impulses were forged in the crucible of the Stone Age and have been passed down through countless generations. So the next time you see a father teaching his child to ride a bike, a firefighter rushing into a burning building, or a farmer working his land from dawn till dusk, you are seeing a modern echo of that ancient legacy. The tools have changed, the dangers are different, but the fundamental role, the quiet, steady, and essential work of protecting and providing, it is the silent, unbroken story of men. A story that began in the flickering firelight of the distant past and continues to shape our world today. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this exploration of our shared history fascinating, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the stories that made us who we are. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.